What up? And welcome to another episode of What Are You Watching? The TV slash film segment of the channel. And today we taking it to the movies. This past weekend I just watched Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Really good movie. I enjoyed it. But before all that, we got to take it back to the first one. When it comes to series, I like to watch the movies from the beginning. And so this all starts with part one. Movie with James Franco that came out a while ago, almost 10 years ago. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And like most of these movies, sometimes they very eerily mimic real life. And so James Franco's character, he's trying to create a cure for Alzheimer's disease. And so the medicine that they're trying it out on chimpanzees. And so after a series of unfortunate events, we come to find out that one of these chimpanzees had a child, passed on the medicine, and we have Caesar. And I think the sequence of these movies is very well done because the timeline of events is very entertaining. In the first one, Caesar just wants to create a safe zone for the chimpanzees or apes. And it appears that he'll be able to do so. But we come to find out in the second movie that this medicine actually had a reverse effect on humans. And so in the second movie, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the human species has been going through it. The numbers have been greatly reduced, and there's only certain cities that are even able to uphold society. They end up running back into the apes and are trying to coincide and coexist in this forest so that they'll be able to share resources and hopefully reinvigorate the human species. But again, after a series of unfortunate events, we see that humans and apes can't really get along. There's some animosity from both parties involved, and little war breaks out. Leads us to the third movie where it's full out war, and now the apes are against humans. We see that there is pockets of human society that are starting to come back along, but to me, the irony of the third movie is that even though humans are trying to wipe out the apes, they literally can't even handle the problems between themselves. And so even though they appear to have the upper hand on the apes, humans just end up getting into fights with each other and again end up wiping each other out. And in my opinion, that was also because there was a difference in ideologies between humans. One group was a little bit more violent than the other. So again, I think it's just another example of humans being greedy and just a little bit of human nature in a sense. They always say that humans are like a plague or like a virus. Not something I necessarily agree with, but we see instances of it in this movie. Which leads us to the fourth one that just came out now, Kingdom of the Apes. Shout out to all parties involved on making this movie. Like I said, I enjoyed it. And I think the latest one sums up a lot of things about this series in general. The cinematography, all four movies look great. The images of this society, the human broke down society and the flourishing ape society throughout the movies has always looked good. Little by little, the apes have been able to carve their own little space into the world, and we see that they're doing pretty well. I also have to state the fact that Caesar's gone. You could see that there's different clans, and of course, by this time, there's more apes, and there's also different sections, which is interesting because Caesar always preached apes are stronger as one, which is something that we see they still believe in, but I'm pretty sure somewhere along the line, ideologies were different and some people separated. So in this movie, we have clans, which were pretty cool. You see that some specialize in different things. At this point, humans are definitely suffering, and the disease has even left them speechless, and of course, significantly dwindled down the numbers. And so, again, we see that they're trying to rebuild, which is interesting, but I'll get into that a little bit more towards the end. Because at the end of the movie, I thought it was interesting how this new Caesar, or King of Apes, even though he had everything he wanted and apes were flourishing, he still felt a little bit inadequate when it comes to humans. And while watching the movie, I thought it was pretty understandable because even though the apes were doing well, they were still living a little primitive. I'm not a scientist, but I don't think that apes have the engineering capabilities that humans might have. And so I think the king got a little bit jealous of the advances that humans were able to make and wanted to elevate himself from that primitive life. So, to be honest, I'm not mad at it, but again, being greedy ends up kicking him in the ass. One of the last scenes in the movie is one of my favorites. The main character in this story is part of what's called the Eagle Clan, and you'll see why they go by this name. I thought it was a very well done scene. But getting back to the humans, I have to say that I never watched the original movie that started all this. I think it came out in the 80s or the 90s. But if I'm not mistaken, in that movie, humans were in space and were trying to come back down to Earth because they were avoiding the disease. So the fact that it looks like the humans are communicating with people out in space at the end, and the fact that the apes also showed an interest in the stars and just seeing what's beyond, I think that they might make another movie in this franchise and are going to take us out to space. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Apes making it out to space would be a crazy thing to see, especially with this technology. So I'm sure it'll look great, but we'll see. Let me know what you guys thought about the movie or just the Planet of the Apes franchise in general. Until next time, peace.